Greetings. I'm not showing my face today because I'm by myself with my camera. So I wanted to do another read with me exercise with the Force of Enchantment Tarot. I've got the book here, the box here in front of me to remind you of the deck that I've been working on. And I'm going to continue working with this deck throughout February, if that means anything to you. I don't know if it will. It doesn't mean I won't do any other readings. It doesn't mean I won't do any other readings during the month of February with any other decks, but I'm really wanting to get to know this deck really well. And I have a retreat that I'm going to in the beginning of February that I want to take the deck along, so I'll be working with it there. So I thought I would continue and do a few more at least readings from the book that comes within the deck. And if you have seen my other videos, you know that I've already done two from the back of the book that comes with the deck. And today we're going to do another one called, let me see if I can look it up. It's called Shining Eyes and Creeping Feet, which sounds funny, but it's of course based on, they use the 9 of Challenges, and I have that here in front of me, the 9 of Challenges here, to inspire the reading. I don't know if that's clear enough for you to see, I hope so. It's a dark card, and I've got a dark background, so I'll move it here. Maybe that's a little better. The 9 of Card, if you can't see it very clearly, it's a wooded, in nighttime in the woods, in the forest. The moon is hidden behind the trees here in the background, and behind clouds it looks like too. There's a young man curled up within the roots of an old tree, in a hole there, burrowed in there. Obviously in a state of distress. And it talks about, this reading is talking about the fears that we have. It's showing here someone caught in the dark force of fear is both real and illusionary. Whether his fears are based in reality or not, they still haunt him. And this is a good reading to help clarify when you're feeling stressed and when you're feeling fretful. And it says, when the dawn breaks and the forest isn't quite so scary, you will face your fears with a stout heart. And that's true. Things are often scarier when we can't see them clearly, what we are afraid of. So it asks us to take this 9 of Challenges, which I will remind you is based on the 9 of Swords. That is the equivalent in the Rider-Waite deck. We take this card out to represent the fearful state of mind, state of not really knowing what's real and what's not real. And then they have you they instruct you to pull 8 cards out in your usual manner. So I've already done that because I wanted to get a placement here of my cards in frame of the camera. And as we address each card, I'll give you a little clearer view of it, but I don't want to move out of the range of the camera. Sorry, this is a little bit clunky. And it says what the idea of the exercise is, the idea of the reading, is as an exercise to see in just 9 different random cards pulled something that we might potentially find fearful in the card. And also, then on the reverse, we're going to look back at the same card and see what we may find encouraging, or something that hopeful, or something something positive that will help alleviate the fear. So I like this a lot because I have a tendency to get a bad feeling. I'm one of these people who gets that sinking feeling in the stomach a lot. A lot of empaths have that. We have that feeling when the phone rings. A lot of people have that. The phone rings and you know right away if it's bad news or not, or good news or whatever. If it's bad news, you can feel that in your stomach. It's not so much anymore, I think, because I don't think people actually talk to people on the phone anymore. But But you know what I'm talking about, that you just have a feeling. Sometimes you have this feeling of dread. And sometimes you have the feeling of dread or a feeling of fear, and you don't even know why you're afraid. Is it something that is real? Should I really be, and I struggle with this, should I really be fearful? Should I really be worried? Or is my imagination coming up with the worst case scenario that is causing me to have feelings with dread? Okay, and I can name a few things, I think we can all name a few of those things in our lives where would cause those kind of feelings in ourselves that we don't know, like the waiting to know things, the waiting to know. I know in the past, younger, waiting to hear about whether you get a job. Okay, let's say you're trying to get a job, and you've been out of work for a long time, and you're trying to get a job, and you're hopeful about the job, but then you're not sure. Maybe you were in the interview, and maybe they looked at you crooked, and you think, maybe they didn't like me, and they won't care how qualified I am. I have this bad feeling. I just have a bad feeling. And we get ourselves all worked up over this scenario of, we can make it as elaborate as our imaginations can become elaborate, how it could be the worst thing in the world. And then sometimes it turns out that we really did get the job, that they didn't call you because of another reason. I mean, they had to call late or whatever. We've had those experiences where we feel dread, but then we can feel that fear has been alleviated or whatever. Waiting to have your grades posted when you're in school, waiting for the results of a medical test, waiting to, hear about the safety of a friend or something like that. So we have these feelings, and I really like the exercise. I look at it as an exercise, but it's also reading, just pulling out random cards. It's a good exercise as well for me to get to know the cards a little better. Like I said, this is another new deck where I find the author had a very specific meaning to the cards that sometimes is a little different than the traditional meaning in the Rider-Waite decks. So this is a really good way to see what the author, maybe their intention was. So we're going to go through these 9 cards. I've already, like I said, dealt them out. I haven't really looked at them. I've got the book here by me, so if I want to maybe remind myself of what the author thinks of each card, I'll try to remind you in the Rider-Waite deck what the card would be if the equivalent is. That can be a good thing or a bad thing. I think the reason and I've said this in the past, the reason why I continually seem to go back and say, in the Rider-Waite deck, this card is this. Because so many of us are familiar with the Rider-Waite deck, and it is helpful. I've been away from the Rider-Waite reading all these odd cards for a while, because sometimes I even forget, wait a minute, what does the 6 of Cups look like in the Rider-Waite again? And if I'm reminded of that, oh yes, I remember the 6 of Cups is the nostalgia card, the young girl handing a flower to somebody in the street, right? Or like a flower vendor or something like that. I don't know. I think that's it. But anyway, I think that's the 6 of Cups in the Rider-Waite. So if I have the 6 of Cups in this challenge, in this deck, what would it perhaps mean? Okay, so at any rate, again, in no order, I don't have any cards representing anything. It's read a little differently. We're not going to look at past, present, future, or something affecting something else. Each card is an individual card in its own, but I would think in any time we have more than one card, and I've said this in the past too, anytime we seem to have more than one card together in a reading, even though they won't maybe directly relate to their neighbors or the order that they're dealt, the overall picture has a meaning, the overall picture. So if we can identify maybe what we might be afraid of in each card, might remind us of a fear, the overall picture might be of a general, things general that causes fear in us. The same way as when we go into maybe looking at what gives us hope, or what gives us, or how can we be encouraged, etc. We can look at that as an overall picture. Okay, so anytime, again, more than one card is involved, you do have to look at the relationship, or what is the theme? Is there a theme? Something like that. Okay. The very first card that I have drawn here is the Seven of Visions. The Seven of Visions. I'll try to hold it here for a second. Here we see there's a fountain. It says, carefully descending the weathered stone stairs, glittering with dew, you approach the stone fountain at the bottom of the grotto. The bottom of the grotto. There's a stone fountain. There's water here. And it says, your trials in the forest have made you doubt your course, and you seek guidance from the ancient gazing bull. At first you can only see reflection on the dark surface, but as you breathe upon the water, images begin to appear, fragments of visions swirling and shifting. So this is talking about the many possibilities the future holds. In the Rider-Waite, we see the man looking up at all the cups in the sky above him, with all kinds of assorted things in each cup. And we talk about choices. There's sometimes too many choices, or too many things in front of you, wanting to know what, or maybe the problem of knowing what's real and what's not real. In this card, it is also talking about sometimes your lack of direction may be the result of preferring fantasy to reality. And it also says if you're getting too many answers, if you're seeking divinatory guidance, if it just makes you more confused, maybe now's not the time to ask for questions. Okay, so getting too many, it says badgering the oracle will only muddy the waters. If you ask too many questions, you will get too many answers. And that's really the case. When we fill up our minds with all these fears, all these possible scenarios, the worst case scenarios, then we're just overcome with it. And that's when that stress really starts to grow in us. So it's the fear of the unknown, I would say, in this card. I see that. I can see very carefully the fear of the unknown. I can see the, is this a part of my imagination, or, how the imagination can play tricks on us sometimes. Just like I said in my example right before I started the reading, we let our minds go, and I particularly do that. I'm a thinker. I'm a thinker, and I'm an empath, and I have strong feelings about everything. I have strong feelings about things that are real, and I have strong feelings about things that are not real. And then I worry, are my feelings that are not real, that are so strong, going to make the things that are not real? Are they going to make them real? Am I going to manifest things that I don't want to manifest just because I can't stop thinking about them? I mean, this is what goes on in the confusion of an empath's mind very often, or somebody who thinks too much. So I can really relate to the Seven of Visions. This is a very strong card for me most of the time. This is like a day in my life right there. Okay, the second, moving on. I don't want to make this too terribly long because I just want to give you an overview of how we might want to do this. The second card in my reading is the White Hart, and this is, of course, the Fool in the Rider-Waite, the White Stag, standing on the edge of the forest of enchantment, inviting you to follow. When you see the white deer, you are being called to follow it. Okay, because you're not sure what's going to happen, but there's going to be surprises all along the way. It's just taking that courage. Taking the courage to go. And here would be very obviously, if we do not want to go, if we choose not to go with the White Stag, with the White Hart there, it could very well be that fear of unknown, how it's crippling us. We stand frozen in our tracks so often because we're afraid to move. I do that at a time. I do that again. I was supposed to I have a little bit of anxiety about speaking to people on the phone. And when I have to make a phone call, I will freeze. I will just freeze about it. I can't explain it, but I just don't want to make the call. I can't make myself do it. It's just, and there's nothing frightful about the call. There's nothing scary about the call. It's something, and it triggers an emotion in me of something, maybe, I don't know what. Okay. Anyway, the next one coming up. So it is the fear of the unknown. I would say just basically going someplace we don't see clearly what's going to happen on the other side, and that can be very frightening for a lot of people. Okay, here we have the Six of Spells. On the Six of Spells, we can remember the Six of Spells. That's the Six of Wands. Okay, let's see. What do we look at? The Six of Wands picture. Let me look up here a minute. See if I can remember. Oh yes, of course. It is being receiving recognition. It's the man on the horse receiving recognition for his efforts, things he's done. Good job. Done a good job. Okay. And here, here apparently he's getting a lot of recognition. He seems to have hatched a baby dragon, just like, remember in Harry Potter, how cute that was. And it talks about when people are being secure in their accomplishments, there's no jealousy or ill feeling when somebody else has accomplishment. Okay. Because it says here, when people are secure in their own accomplishments, there is no jealousy or ill feeling when another has a glowing success. Because the foster father knows this, he can accept congratulations in his due. They talk about the foster father of the dragon here. With no false modesty or self-deprecation needed. Though you may never hatch a wyvern, it's a wyvern that they're hatched on a dragon. Be proud of your triumphs and drink in the praise. Okay, so that looks like a very positive card. What might be something to fear from that? Well, that's a good question. That's a really good question here. What might we sometimes, one thing that I'm thinking of, sometimes we accidentally succeed, or we succeed, but it isn't really our best effort, and we're a little embarrassed because people on the surface think it's a really good effort and that we did really our best and we should be very proud of it, but we know that there may be some flaws, or that some of us that are over perfectionists might think that there's some flaws. So maybe in the what might be negative about this card is a fear of being found out, that maybe you do not live up to your reputation, that maybe you do not live up to what people think that you do. I don't know how to explain that, but I do a lot of, I'm going to use myself as an example. I know how to do a lot of things. And a lot of people sometimes express envy or even jealousy with me because I'm competent at a lot of things. I'm a relatively good cook. I'm a good, a good musician, I believe. I'm a good, I'm good. I can knit. I can do a lot of crafty things very well. I'm very artistic. So there are a lot of things that I do when I succeed and do well. But sometimes, when people think that somebody is accomplishing something that they don't know how to do it, they sometimes think it's a bigger deal than it really is. And that's in my opinion. Like, here, I just made some bread. Here's a good example. I made some bread to take to a potluck, and I used an overnight bread recipe that is used all over the internet. Everybody on the internet seems to have it. Everybody I know seems to have it. It's no big deal. You mix up dough, and you don't have to knead it, and you let it rise overnight, and the next day you bake it, and it makes a really good loaf of bread. Well, I made that. Well, people were the bread was so good. They were going on and on and on about how good the bread was. And I said, well, it was so easy to do. I think they thought I was being humble. And so they said, well, would you teach us? I said, well, sure, I would be happy to show you how to do it. And then the next thing I know, one of them went on the internet and found the recipe and made the bread on their own and came back and said, oh, this was so easy. I just found it on the internet and I made it, and you were right, it was easy. Well, that did not diminish anything that I had done with my bread in any way. Exactly what I had said was true about the bread recipe came back. That it was easy and anybody could probably do about the same thing as I did. But is this sort of what we might fear about this? Like, do I feel now less accomplished because other people can do what I did? I don't know how to explain that, but you understand. I don't, because I don't really need a great. I do make good bread, though. I do make other bread that's much, more challenging than that. But I don't think it was about that. I think it was about my reluctancy to share, that people will think that just anything I can do can be done by them. Perhaps, I don't know. I'm just reaching. I'm looking for something, and this is not, again, I'm not doing any particular reading for myself or for anybody else. So I have no frame of reference when I speak for most of these cards. I'm just trying to get into the exercise of looking at something that could be something I fear. I'm looking for a fear in each card. And some of them is a little further reach than others. I think you'll agree. Okay, we have the 5 of challenges next. And the 5 of challenges, I'm looking at my book here. In case there's anything I forget to say, where do I find it? The 5 of challenges is the equivalent to the 5 of swords in Rider-Waite. And the 5 of swords is there was obviously some kind of a battle, a young man holding up a sword, and there was obviously some kind of a battle that had taken place. And we see somebody him walking away. And here we have, in this card, a giant. He's a giant because he has a tree. If you can see this, a tree in his hand. So he's really a giant. It says, when you come upon a giant, it is safe to assume that he is not interested in anything you have to say. So save your breath for running. There are friendly giants, but they are rare in the general giant population, as are giants with a sense of humor. This giant isn't comical at all, nor is he stereotypically stupid bumbler. He's dangerous, not because he's evil, but because he's big. Excuse me. He also has a short temper, and he's giving you one chance to get out of the space before he deals with you. Okay, this is to signify, it says here, in your life, one situation where you might be overestimating your chances against an opponent. Sometimes being quicker in an argument just doesn't work because the other will not or cannot engage in that way. Do not equate slowness with stupidity. Don't equate stupidity with harmlessness. Stay on the alert until you know who and what you're dealing with. Okay, it's something there's something you're just not going to win against. So, of course, overwhelming odds, it's just not going to happen for you. It's just time that you see that and get out of the way. That's what this card is about. Not prolonging the particular battle if it's a war, to go home and recoup your losses and try to get strength again in case you're faced with a battle again. So knowing when to walk away, I guess, is the point. And we would see that in the 5 of swords as well. When it's time to walk away from something and the battle has to be, there's the battle plan we got to go and recoup. And you see in that picture, I don't know if it says who won or lost, but it does say that it's, for right now, there's a break in the action, at least. So that's what this is looking for, 5 of challenges. So the fear in this would be simple. I guess it was a big thing. Recurring things, the big fears that keep coming back. I think that's where I would see this. Something you just can't win. Something that just is the way it is no matter what you do. And I think we've all been in those kind of situations. And I'll tell you, that is something that frustrates me really in a big way. I'm one of these people that I just want to keep trying. If I want an outcome, I will keep trying in a different way till I achieve the outcome. I can think up some really elaborate plans to try to achieve something. But sometimes that just makes it worse. It just makes it worse because it makes it hard for me to admit when it just is not going to happen. And that's a big one for me. That is a really big one. Every time I seem to say to myself, well, it's not going to happen, walk away, I get another idea that maybe I can fix it this one last time. So that would maybe be a fear for me that I might want to consider if it were me. Okay, the next one is the Eight of Challenges. Again, swords, the Eight of Swords. And I'm just going to it's not much different than the Eight of Swords in the Rider-Waite. We remember her, the woman, the blindfolded and bound woman standing with the swords around her in the ground. Here she's, instead of swords, this young woman is surrounded by thorns that are growing around her and engulfing her. She has scratches, she has blood, but the scratches are superficial. She's not, bleeding out or anything. She's not dying. She doesn't know which way to turn. She's feeling in the trap. She doesn't know, she knows she can't stay there, but she just can't think through it. She doesn't know how to get out of there. So she falls into denial, refusing to look at the situation or find a solution for her entrapment. It is just something, it is again a situation that should not be endured, but you just don't know how to get out and to find anything better. So this feeling of helplessness that is a fear for many of us. And sort of the frustration that I was speaking of the 5 challenges, that I just keep thinking I should be able to figure it out. When the 8 of challenges, by the time I get to the 8 of challenges, it's just, there is a way out, but at this point, you just don't want to even try to deal with it. So that would be the fear of this card. This is this denial, Again, the unknown, something that is unknown to you, being fearful again. Her hands are over her eyes. She does not see the way out. So it is something that is not known to her, and that is, we do not like to be in the dark. That's the same as we go back on the Night of Challenges. We see this young man in this hollow of this old tree. He can't see. He doesn't know what is out there. So he imagines all kinds of things. Well, she does the same. She does the same. But if she would just look, if she would just open her eyes, right? That's really the message of the card in so many ways. Okay. The next card we have is the card is Moonlight. And oh, I love this so much because this one shows the hairs in Moonlight. And the hair gazing of the moon is a very, very familiar image to most of us. This card talks about how hares go mad at the moonlight, wild with lunatic ecstasy. They dance and leap, suddenly stand motionless, frozen, betwitched, and then they return to themselves and the dawn comes out. There's so many stories about the air and myths and legends about the hare and the moon. And everybody has a feeling of something about the moonlight. That the magic of the night when the moon is out. But in the moonlight, we have to go by what our intuition tells us rather than what we can see clearly, because you don't see well in the moonlight. It's dark. You only see, it's an illusion. You can't tell till the sun comes out the next day. This is a big deal in our camp when we're camping out. Starry nights are best for us to camp in because then we can at least see a little better. But in the nighttime, when the moon it's a full moon, the sky is so dark, and it is so dark in the camp, and we have to make special care during the daylight that everything is out of the way and we know where everything is so we can find it or avoid it in the dark. Okay, so this one talks about you have to allow your intuition to guide you, but you have to pay a special attention outside of the dark so that you have more clarity within the dark. And letting our intuition guide us is really a fearful exercise for a lot of people. Being able to trust in your instincts or trust in your insight. So how can that be fearful? Not being able to see, again, what's in front of you. It's a big fear for a lot of us. Okay, then I have the next card coming up is the Five of Visions. And the Five of Visions would be, of course, the Five of Cups. And the Five of Cups, we see someone who's very disappointed. In the Rider-Waite, he said, it's a disappointed man just turning his back on the cups laying on the ground. There's 3 cups laying on the ground and 2 behind him, and he just turns his back and looks toward the water. He's faced some kind of disappointment, some kind of failure, some kind of regret. The Five of Visions, similar in a way, we see the water, but this is a little different. Instead of her turning her back on something, she's chasing something towards. She's chasing this ball, this little golden ball. And the card description reads this way. Cursing her carelessness, a princess chases her precious golden ball down a forest path, watching helplessly as it splashes into a deep pool. Nearby, a smiling frog also watches. He knows that the story is about to change, for he is the frog prince, and the dropped ball is his ticket to bliss. It's hers too, though she doesn't know it yet. All she feels is disappointment at the loss of her toy. When she plops down on the damp rock in despair, the hero of the tale will take a froggy leap toward their future. Well, that's a fairy tale. Yes, that's cute. It says, whatever your equivalent of the golden ball is, don't worry too much if you've lost sight of it. The really good stories take a darker turn before the happy ending. A temporary loss or unhappiness may lead to greater gains in the long run. Your tale isn't over yet. So this is a little bit different. This speaks of what's beyond. When he's looking out, the disappointed man in the Rider-Waite, looking out beyond, he's seeking something in the future. She's running towards it. She's running towards it, and she's going to come smack in contact with it without even knowing it. But it's about temporary disappointments. So we don't have a big fear with a temporary disappointment, something that's going to disappoint us for a little while. But remember, this is a Five of Visions. This is a minor arcana card. And another thing I've said so many times is how it's the little things that trip us up. I feel this all the time. I want to get beyond it. I have some disappointment coming up for me. Right now I have a disappointment. I just want to see my way through it. I want to wake up and have a day where I don't have anything to worry about. Well, tomorrow I wake up and I usually find out some new thing to worry about. That's just part of being alive. That's part of being the day. And if we let them get you big, if we let our imagination get you big, then we have a big problem. So I guess that would be what this is, the fear of the little things tripping us up, the fear of things getting in our way, the fear of losing sight of where it is that we want to be or losing sight of where we want to go. just like she has fear of losing sight of her ball as it splashes into the water. Okay, the next one, I want to go a little faster. I've been slowing down a little bit, but now we have the Ace of Boons. And the Ace of Boons has come up a few times for us before, and we see this is the Ace of Pentacles. And in this one, they talk about the frog with his toadstone. Oh, I guess it's a toad with his toadstone. And it talks about that this is something that is being offered, something being offering to us, some kind of an antidote that is being offered. It is, he's offering this toadstone ring to protect from hexes and curses or whatever, to give us healing, to give us some kind of luck, to give us some kind of power, to keep it all, keep yourself on the ground, keep yourself centered and using your magic within you. This fear of not being able to do that, this fear, I guess the fear would be, not being able to apply what you know, not being able to, finding yourself in a position that you really can't, you can't feel that. You can't feel yourself in that center position where you can actually do what you want to do. And finally, the Nine of Visions we have at the very end here. The Nine of Visions, which would be the Nine of Cups. And the Nine of Cups, I'm just looking to make sure I have the right, oh yeah, the Nine of Cups is the wish card. We call it the wish card in the Rider-Waite. It's the man sitting there with all the cups behind him, and smug man, he's all, everything that he's wished for is coming true. Well, that sounds like a really good thing. That doesn't sound like anything bad. Let's look here. We have the Nine of Visions, and the Nine of Visions talks about an overgrown glade lying in the ruins of a stone cottage, abandoned for a long time, no one coming near. And it talks about, take a coin from your pocket, clasp it into your heart with a fervent wish, waiting for the water to become still. When you come upon the well, of course I missed the well, see if you can spot the well keeper, and when you're ready, make your wish. It's the wishing card. It signifies your wish will come true. As often the case with forest enchantment, there's a catch. The wish must be true. You must want it, visualize it, and believe it is yours. Frivolous wishes can bring undesired results, and half-hearted wishes are ignored by the magic well. Take your time and decide what you want. Don't waste your wish. This is a big fear of mine. Oh, I love that this card came up, because this is actually, excuse me, psh, get down, psh, 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 down, psh, psh, get down, psh, excuse me, shh. Thank you. Cats. Be careful what you wish for is what we say. Be careful what you wish for, you might get it. Well, I did allude to a little bit of that earlier, that sometimes I'm afraid that some of my thoughts will manifest as wishes. If I think too much on a certain thing, your thoughts, will manifest into something that's actually real. But also making sure that what you're wishing for is what you really want. And this is something that hits really close to, if you're practicing witch, and many of you who are into tarot are also into doing spell work, you have to be so clear upon what your desire is before you cast your spell. You have to, or you will it will really backfire. It will really backfire on you. So this is if you're not afraid, don't see any fear in the Nine of Visions. You should see some fear in the Nine of Visions, just some fear that nothing is untoward about your wish. That you really do want what you think you want. You visualize it. You can believe in it. If it's a real wish you want, a real desire you want, it can come true. If not, be really careful. Now the second part of the exercise, I don't want to, kind of want to cut this short if I can, but we just looked over here and we want to see the overall maybe fear I'm seeing in this spread. If I want to take this as a reading, the 9 cards together, it's really about the unknown, really about what is going on. And this is, oh, now this is when it is real wish for me, because I have this in me all the time, particularly strong right now for several reasons. But this fear of, I'm really wanting to move forward. I have some things I really want to get into and really get going on them. But I'm sort of hesitating because I have some unfinished things dealing with. Maybe in my life I have a chance that there's a possibility of having a big change in my life. Or the fear that maybe there's going to be a big change in my life. Maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't want to... I don't want to manifest anything that's just a mindless, a baseless fear in my mind. But, this strikes a chord with me at least. Fearing the unknown. Fearing what I don't see clearly. Fearing, and the whole, this is me. Covering my eyes. Covering my eyes, covering my ears. Not wanting to see, not wanting to hear things that I think I'll be uncomfortable with. Going the same battles over and over again. Why am I doing that? Why do I keep, fear of the unknown, fearing what's to come, fearing, some kind of change in store. Fearing that I'll be found out as a fraud. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, or other people think I am, and I will be found out. Fear of when the day is dawning, I will have found that I was wrong. That what lies in front of me was not what lies in front of me, what I thought laid in front of me. So, we can go on and on, but this is a really good exercise. You can do this with any deck. It doesn't have to be a new deck. You could do this with a deck you're very familiar with. Looking for something you fear in each card, or potential fear in each card. And now we want to go back ultimately in the end and say, well, where there is fear, there has to also be hope. Okay? So what can we find hopeful? What is the outcome? What could be an hopeful outcome? Well, the 7 of visions, not all of these things are false visions. Some are very likely, some are very true. To wait until the water is nice and clear before we try to make a decision of what is a real, something potentially accurate or potentially true, against something that's just, a fancy that floated in front of, in the blur of the water, I may have misread. So making sure you have a clear vision. Making sure you have a clear vision here. Making sure you have a clear vision. Trusting within your magic, trusting in your own power, trusting in someone that you respect, someone with a good reputation to lead you, someone that you can, you're not alone. There's somebody here you're going to follow, the white Hart, somebody there to follow, somebody to lead, somebody who's already gone where I'm going. It's not so important. The people around this person, when he has hatched his wyvern, they're not thinking, well, is this the best wyvern he's ever hatched? Or, well, yeah, sure, he's hatched 1 wyvern, but can he hatch 2? They're just thinking simply, well done. They're pleased with what he did right now. They're pleased with how he did it. We don't need to impress people who really care about us, who really wish us well, who really wish us to do something that we, do our best and to be our best person. They're supportive for us whatever we do. And that's a good reminder of that. That's a really good reminder of that. Yes, it's dark, but we have a lot of experience. We have a lot of intuition to deal with, to be able to find ourselves. We don't need to go crazy in the moonlight. We can use the moonlight, and witches know that. We use the moonlight all the time, don't we? The magic of the moon. The magic of our powers and our talismans and things. And of course, our intentions. Knowing our intentions strongly, clearly, keeping a clear mind, keeping ourselves grounded, well grounded, keeping ourselves in touch with our intuition, our desires. Okay. Anyway, I hope that wasn't too long. I really like this exercise. I think I will do this again. I liked it. Again, it's called the Shining Eyes, Creeping Feet, reading and spread in the Blossom Enchantment Tarot. Boy, am I happy I received this. This is one of the nicest gifts I've received, I have to say. I'm really happy about that. So anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll meet again, and we'll read some more. As always, I am Rebecca the Good Wife, and I wish you blessings.